This is the first folio of William Shakespeare. That is the comedies, histories and tragedies, this master William Shakespeare, printed in London in 1623, probably the most famous book in all of English literature. This is a splendid copy in a red Morocco binding by Roger Payne, and I'd like to show it to you. I'm Adam Douglas from Peter Harrington. I'm sitting here in our New York shop, which we've just opened. We've issued a catalogue to celebrate that, and this, as you might expect, is the cover star. So let's take a look through this copy. Here we see the ownership inscription of George Shuckburgh. Shuckburgh Evelyn is his full name, in 1800. This is when he owned this copy, when he bought this copy, and it is a copy, like so many, sadly, lacking the prelim, so it doesn't have the famous title page and the introductory matter. What it does have, the works of William Shakespeare in their entirety, from The Tempest, as it's printed here, through to Cymbeline. So it's absolutely complete after the prelims. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that half the plays of Shakespeare would not have survived were it not for their printing here in the first folio. And some of the other plays are printed in slightly different texts from the quarto playbooks that preceded them. So it's an absolutely vital book for Shakespearean scholarship. So as it follows the order of the title page, the first part of the comedies, opening with The Tempest, which people thought probably got the first place because it was his most recent big success. It had taken 7 years to get the book printed after his death. So it's important to keep in mind his last successes. And here we go through, we've got the various plays printed in this folio format. This is actually the smallest paper used for the 4 17th century Shakespeare folios. They grow in size as Shakespeare grew in reputation. So this book is really vitally important for establishing his reputation. So we go through all the comedies as they were sorted out by the players. Merchant of Venice here is, see, it has the format of a comedy, but it has much darker elements in it. And then we begin the great sequence after the Winter's Tale, again, a comedy with some quite tragic elements to it. And when the Winter's Tale is finished, we start a new sequence of pagination and the register, and we start the histories. They're in order of the king, so it starts with the life and death of King John, goes through the histories, and we get to the great plays like first part of Henry IV, with the life and death of Henry, surnamed Hotspur. Sometimes different titles than one might expect, lengthier titles. And it goes on all the way through the histories. So the end is the life of King Henry VIII. Of course, it was during a performance of Henry VIII that the Globe Theatre caught fire and burnt down. Then we've got the tragedy of Troilus and Cressida, which was, this was the last play that was introduced to the first folio because they had to buy the individual rights to all these plays, and Troilus and Cressida proved tricky. So that's inserted. Some of the leaves don't have page numbers, most of them don't have page numbers, because it was left to the last minute to insert it. So after Troilus and Cressida, a blank page because they haven't quite filled it up with type, and we begin the tragedies, beginning with Coriolanus as Romeo and Juliet. Huge success, one of his most successful plays then and ever since. And we go through to the amazing sequence here. There's Julius Caesar. We get Macbeth, one of the plays that's first printed here. Then from Macbeth, we go through to Hamlet. And from Hamlet, it doesn't let up. The next play after Hamlet, King Lear. Great masterpiece, in my opinion. And then to Othello. The weight of the book is towards, in modern taste, is towards the end. Got Antony and Cleopatra here. As I said earlier, the first folio is a book more than any other that's liable to be made up, perhaps with the exception of the King James Bible. So leaves are often supplied to copies. This is already true by the 18th century when this is this book was bought. So this leaf here is short in Cymbeline. This one is a little short, has been repaired. And there's a little bit of repair, as is quite common folios, paper repairs here at the corner. And there's the last leaf, which has the printer's imprint at the end, printed at the charges of W. Jaggard, Ed Blunt, J. Smellick, and W. Aspley, 1623. So the important thing is that the title, the date of publication is there. And Sir George possibly bought this from Roger Payne's brother, who is known to have dealt in copies. Roger Payne himself was a binder who had bound about a dozen copies of the first folio, so he was much in demand. And we have here some notes that Sir George has made about his copy. It says here, Mr. Payne's Shakespeare, said to be the first edition of 1623. Well, it is the first edition of 1623. Every leaf is a genuine copy from the first folio. And he's made various notes about the composition of the book. And here he's made more notes. He says, memorandum from the first, second, and third editions of Shakespeare in the King's Library at Buckingham House in 1798. So he's been there and he's looked through them all and made notes on the differences between the first three folios. So that's a nice little touch. These are laid in with this copy.